Hello, everybody.
And we are live. Hey, welcome back to another session. I'm super excited to have our next guest here, Jennie Lakenan. Now, I did previously interview Jenny for a podcast that we've done, and this session was amazing. I'm super excited to see what's coming for this session. But Jenny is gonna talk about the operations blueprint, streamlining your processes and documenting your data for easy handoff. Jenny, so excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thanks for having me, Natalie. I'm super excited. Thanks for being here today, everyone. I'm so ready to talk to you about this topic. So, today we are talking about your processes. More specifically, I'm going to share with you my ops blueprint, which is how to create detailed processes for your business to make it easy for you to hand off work, free up your time, and help everyone on the team use their time really, really efficiently. So I like to think about processes like hiring a babysitter. If you have kids, you know what I mean. I've got 3 under 8, so this is very real for us. You want to go out on date night and you want your kids to be alive and hopefully happy when you get back. And a babysitter is a lot more likely to be successful with the kids if you give them details on your kid's schedule, on their food preferences, where the diapers are stored, all those things. And the sitter might be able to get by without those details. They might stumble through it, they might figure it out, but you may not end up being as happy with their end result at the end of the night. They might want to quit too if you don't help communicate where things are and the kids might not be happy at the end of the night too. But making just a brief cheat sheet for your babysitter to know what to expect, where things are, and what the kids' schedules are will set them up for success in your babysitting relationship and make them want to come back the next date night. In the same way, having instructions written down in your business is really, really helpful for you and your team. And we do that in the form of processes. So, my name is Jennie Lakenan. I'm the go to web designer for life coaches who want to have an amazing online presence. So, you might ask yourself, why am I presenting about processes? I'm presenting about this because as I thought about the pain points that I see my coach clients have who are in the stage of business where you are, I've noticed that their biggest struggle often isn't directly tied to website design anymore or, even like how to market using their websites. Their biggest pain points are systems for managing the website or managing the ongoing marketing to-dos or like managing their CRM and getting clarity around those things. Their front end might be chugging along, bringing clients in, but they're putting fires out on the back end of their business because they don't have written processes for how to do things. And I've created a ton of processes for my own web design business, and I've helped my coach clients do the same thing in their coaching practices. And at this point, I've seen inside every kind of coaching business, and I've seen the benefits of when my clients have these processes in place. Everything from entirely one-to-one coaching practices where, one-to-one coaching is the primary offer, all the way up to memberships with thousands of members. They all benefit from having processes. So in this presentation, I'll give you my ops blueprint. I'll explain what a process is, how to create processes quickly and efficiently, and how to store and maintain your processes to take advantage of all of the hard work that you put into creating them. If you already have some systems and processes in place, that's great. This training will still be super valuable for you because there may be easier ways to create these processes than how you've currently been doing it. I'll show you my way of creating process and you can take what's useful and use it to improve your own like process creation workflow. And also stick around till the end because I'll be giving away a process template based on this blueprint that you can plug and play to create processes really easily in your own business. We will also be doing Q&A at the end, so write down any questions as they come up. I'll be answering all of them at the end. So, first, what what is a process? If anyone is wondering that, maybe this is a dumb question, but I always just start at the very beginning. A process, as I'm defining it today, is a set of step by step instructions for how to do a certain job. That's it. It gives everyone a standard way to do a task, makes sure that everyone on your team does that task in the same way, including you. You might also hear it called a system or an SOP, which just stands for standard operating procedure. There are sort of nuances to these different definitions, but just for the purposes of simplicity today, I'm going to stick with calling it a process. Now, normally, I think people don't love hearing and learning and talking about processes because they think that the topic is super boring. Like, why does anyone talk about processes? But I love talking about processes, and I find them extremely exciting. And the reason why they're exciting is because processes can make a business way more fun to run. And it's way more fun to run because it's efficient, it's scalable, and the end result of your product or service is much consistently higher quality, which overall makes the work just way more fun and satisfying for everyone to do. So let's dig into those benefits of having processes like a little bit more. I kind of glossed over them. But first, the first way that processes make your business more fun is they make the work way faster. Processes, they help your business run smoothly, efficiently, because everyone on the team knows how to do a certain job or deal with a certain situation. This cuts down on mistakes. It reduces the time and resources the team has to expend to actually finish the job. And you're saving time and money because your team will be able to work faster doing the same work, which is also super fun for them. It makes their workflow more satisfying and seamless too. They're putting out fires way less and they can focus on their sweet spots and on the work that they truly love doing, which, as we say as coaches, we want our clients to feel held in their process as they work with us. And we also want our team members to feel held and supported. And process is an amazing way to make that happen. The second reason process makes a business more fun to run is because they make your offerings more scalable. As your business grows, you'll likely need to hire more people or give more jobs to your existing people. And with processes, it's easier to train new team members and confidently give jobs to them. And because process helps everyone follow the same job to get the same steps to get a job done, it's easier to keep high standards for your team even as your business grows. And you won't have to be stressed out, staying awake at night if you get way more business than you planned because you have a process to handle and train more people to fulfill it if you decide to, you know. And then the final reason that processes are amazing for your business is because they make your offering more consistently high quality. And this is maybe the bullet that I'm the most excited about because when everyone on the team follows the same process to deliver an offer, you can give your clients the same high quality results every time. And I will just say this does amazing things for your reputation as a coach, being known for having a really consistently high quality offer. This helps to build trust and loyalty with your clients. They feel taken care of because they're in your process. Like we talked about earlier, they feel held and they know that you've got them, that you care, and that they're going to get the result that they need with you. So here's an example of a process. Let me switch from my slides to the browser window for a second. This is a process I created for one of my clients to help her and her team know how to create new landing pages on her website for like a new marketing funnel. You'll see that the process has these sections. There's a descriptive title that's really clear and concise. There's a brief summary to describe what the task is about. There's a video recording of the task where I actually walk through how to do it step by step. There's a checklist that breaks down the steps of how to do the process. There's like a little what you need section, and then it breaks it down by a checklist. And the checklist has screenshots. And this is basically like a summary of the video with screenshots kind of highlighting the different sections. The benefit of having this process for my client is that it's super easy for anyone either on my team or for her team, her assistant, if they want to get a funnel up really quickly in for that training that's impromptu in 12 hours and they don't have time to email me and wait for me to get back to them. They can create a new funnel on their site really quickly and it's done the right way with no missteps, no like tech integrations forgotten. The opt-ins actually like work. And so that's like why this is just an amazing, amazing thing, amazing tool for her. So now you've seen a process example. What are the steps to actually creating a process like this? You might be wondering. So here's my sort of blueprint for creating one. The first step is to download Loom and hit record. Loom is a great screen sharing tool that makes it super quick to record your computer screen, walk through a process, and then Loom actually quickly generates a share link as soon as you hit like stop record. Not only is Loom great for screen sharing for processes, but it also saved me, you guys, Loom saved me over 300 meetings last year because I used it so much to communicate ideas to my clients and my team in place of a meeting. I love Loom so much. I highly recommend it. It does have a 5-minute video limit on their free tier though, so, like, you can't make videos that are longer than 5 minutes on the free tier. So if you don't wanna mess with another subscription or you don't wanna learn another tool, you can also screen share in a Zoom room, just, like, by yourself, record, walk through the task, and then, you have to export the recording, so it's not quite as seamless of a workflow, but it does work. So once you're recording on Loom or Zoom, you'll walk through the task, whatever the task is that you're making a process for, step by step. No need to be fancy. You can, use as many ums and ahs as you need to, but do try to keep it to like 5 to 10 minutes or less where possible. It just makes it a lot easier to consume. If the video gets much longer than 10 minutes, you might consider breaking it up into separate processes instead of having one like long one. The chances are that if it's more than 10-minute video, it's probably more than one process anyway, in my experience. So that's step one. Then once you're done recording your video, you'll want to generate a transcript from the video. Now, if you're using Loom, it'll generate a transcript for you as part of the interface. Just another reason why Loom is really, really handy. If you're using Zoom, you can use a tool like Fathom AI, which is just like a Zoom add-on to generate the transcript. Now, generating the transcript is optional, but I find that it really, really speeds up the next step, which is to use an AI tool to create a checklist from that transcript. You want to have a checklist or bullet pointed like how-to list, like I showed you earlier in my example process. The idea is that the video is helpful for initial learning for a team member, like the first time that they're doing the process. And then subsequent times they need to do the task, it's easier just to sort of refresh real quick with a checklist instead of having to rewatch the video every time. And I highly recommend this sort of like transcript to AI checklist generation process because it just speeds up the checklist process a lot. I didn't used to have access to these tools, so when I started making processes years ago, I just had my VA like basically watch the video over and over again and write the checklist herself. And it was doable, but it was just really time consuming. And even if it's still profitable for you to pay someone to create that checklist from scratch, it just makes their life easier, and it also means the processes can be generated faster, which is just a thumbs up for everyone. So that's my suggestion. Here's an example of me generating a checklist from a transcript using ChatGPT, which is an AI chatbot that like mimics real human conversation. Most of you have probably heard of it by now or used it, I'm sure. I gave it a video transcript that I just copied from Loom, and I asked it to create a checklist from that video that I could use to make a detailed written process. And it's really important there. That prompt being really specific is super important so that it has the context that it needs. And then this was the output. It's not perfect for sure, but it's a really great starting point. It even had the, prepare the following or the like what you need section at the top, which I think is just really awesome because I didn't ask it to be that specific. And then what you do is you'll take this checklist and you'll edit it, you'll copy it out into a doc and you'll edit it for clarity and any missteps that the AI may have overlooked. I also highly recommend adding screenshots to your process, like I showed you earlier, and you add those where needed on any steps that could use a little bit more detail to clearly show like where something is on the page. If you don't have screenshots, your process might be a little bit hard to follow, and users are more likely to miss important steps, which definitely isn't what we want. So, at this point, after you've edited your checklist for clarity and you've added screenshots, you'll want to test your process. Now, this is a step that a lot of people miss. But I've talked to a lot of coaches, and the ones that have created a lot of processes for their business, they said that the number one factor in their success was having a team member actually use the process to do a task and then give them feedback on it. Because they may see areas that need more detail, or maybe areas that are too detailed and it doesn't need that much detail. It's going to be easier to read, and that checklist is going to be easier to read without so much detail. Or they may notice that there's a step that's been missed. If they have edits, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to like re-record the whole screen share video or anything, but you can tweak the written checklist based on their input really easily. And this is something that my team just knows, and this is part of our like standard sort of procedure for process is that the checklist is always the most updated version of the process. The video is kind of like there for context the first time you do it, but then we don't update the video every time we have to update the process, like the checklist. We only update the video when something like major changes about the checklist. And my team just knows that, and so they just always can reference the checklist as kind of like the primary source of truth. The last step in process creation, and perhaps the most important one, is to store your processes intentionally. Creating a process is really only half of the equation. Storing it in a way that you and your team can easily reference and actually use is the other really, really important piece. This usually means that you're going to add your processes to individual docs in your knowledge base tool. Like if you're using Google Drive or if you're using Notion or ClickUp, there's so many different tools you can use, but you basically just stick with what you're familiar with. Create an individual doc for each process so that you and your team can really easily find them. And I would also suggest having some kind of table of contents for those process documents as well. Like if you're storing your videos and your checklist for your processes in a unique Google Doc, then go ahead and create like a Google Sheets table of contents. Or if you're using a tool like Airtable, you could create the in addition to Google Docs, you could create the table of contents there. If you're using a tool like Notion or ClickUp, you can create an individual page for each process inside of like a general processes database, which will basically have like a built-in table of contents for you, which is really actually super nice, you guys, because I started with Google Docs and Google Sheets as where my processes were originally stored, and it totally like worked to get us going. But the downside of that was then I had to update the Google, like the table of contents in that Google Sheet manually each time I like either added a Google Doc process or like created a new process, or if I like archived one, I had to manually update the table of contents. It was just when you start talking about, like hundreds of processes, gets to be kind of a headache. So now we actually use Notion and we have a processes database, and it automatically updates itself if we archive a process or add a new one, and so that is just really nice. But, you just gotta start somewhere, like, whatever software you use, it just sorta depends on what your current workflow is, how comfortable you are with these different tools already. So just to recap, this is the ops blueprint. First, record your screen share video using Loom or Zoom. Generate a text transcript for the video, and remember, Loom will do this automatically for you if you're using it, which is great. Use that transcript to create a checklist using an AI tool. ChatGPT is a really great one, but of course, there are lots of others. And then fourth, you'll edit that process for clarity. Any steps that the AI missed, you'll add screenshots to it and then test it. Don't forget to test. And then lastly, you'll store that process in an easy to use way so that you have a table of contents to easily find it, and then use it. I'll reiterate that. Use your processes, you guys. Create a process driven culture in your company. And now, if you've been going for a while and you haven't had processes, you may have to really like do some work with your team to help them to understand how this is going to benefit them to get them on board. But it is worth that work. You can help create this culture too by linking to the process in the description of each task in your project management tool. So, for example, if you have a recurring task in your project management tool for for sending an email marketing newsletter, say you send them once a week, it's a recurring task for your assistant to go do that. Paste the link to the process in the description of that recurring task. This makes it much more likely it will be used because the process is there, it's easily available at the time when they're actually gonna be doing the task. Like, as soon as they pull it up, they see, "Oh, yeah, there's a process for this. I'll click it, I'll open it." And even if they are really familiar with the process, I find that, like, my team and I still open our processes to even if it's something that we know how to do really well, just to, like, skim and just to refresh ourselves, like, "Okay, what are the general steps to this?" It just saves your brain so much work. So, yeah, definitely processes are only useful if you're using them, so definitely do that. And oh, a final note here on this is you'll also wanna update your processes regularly. Like, creating them is not a one and done thing, especially when we were talking about processes around, like, different softwares and stuff, because UIs, like, the user interface, changes a lot. So, like, Google Drive moves things, and where the button was, today may be different where that, like, new doc button is a year from now, and so just being able to kind of review those processes regularly is good. Either as you're using the task, you can just, like, make a note to take a few minutes and update it while you're actually doing the task, or like once a year or so, just going back and reviewing them all. You don't even have to be the one that does it. You can assign the team member who routinely does the task to be the one to keep the task updated. So, or keep the process updated. So yeah, just definitely want to update those regularly. Now, here are a couple of alternative tools to make your process creation easier. The first is Scribe How, and the second is called Tango. And what these are is, instead of video capture, they're screen capture tools that try to help create a process by tracking where you click and creating screenshots and written steps around like your clicks on the page. But I find they're not quite as accurate at guessing what I'm doing. So like they definitely, you want to experiment and see if this works for you. I find them a little bit clunky to use, just mostly because a lot of the processes that I'm creating are have to do with like editing a website's back end, and the overlay that these tools create prevents me from being able to click things on a website back end. So they don't work great for me, but I do know some people that love them. And so I wanted to include them here just for you to be able to experiment with and see if this makes creating the checklist quicker for you. Now you know how to create processes for your business, make it easier to and more fun to run. It's easier because the work is faster, it's more scalable while remaining really consistently high quality. Now you can go to this link, jennielakton.com/process, to download the process template that I mentioned earlier. It includes all the sections that I recommend for having for your processes in Google. It's a Google Doc, including the sections that I showed you earlier in the sample process for my client. You'll also get the slides that I showed you today in case you missed any of the tools. So definitely go to this link, get access to that template, and you'll get the slides as well. And here's my contact info if you need help with your website or with any, systems surrounding your website. But mostly I want to get to Q&A now. So who has questions? I'll kind of let's see if Natalie will come on and kind of man us.
So we've had some issues with the chat. Let me see. My camera is starting. There you go. We've had some issues with the chat. So the support team was trying to figure that out.
Okay.
There's a thing. But the comment that I wanted to make is about the babysitting. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the babysitter that you have is probably is sad and you didn't need to go through the dozens and dozens of babysitters since you had such an awesome checklist for her.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. And that's a point where, like, if I hear from someone like, "Oh, I've gone through like 6 different VAs or 6 different, OBMs, and I can't find anyone that does a good job." It's like, well, I mean, sometimes that's the case, but also sometimes it's not them, it's you? And so being willing to examine and create processes to help them achieve successes.
I love it.
Yes.
One more comment that I wanted to make is majority of the people that are watching us here, they already have an existing team. And oftentimes you have an existing team, so you explain many times the same thing to multiple people, and people are changing, right? So you're hiring more people. What worked for me, and the tip I wanted to share is, instead of you trying to create the processes when you are at that stage yourself, have your team create those checklists for you, since you've already explained to them how things need to happen, and they're probably already doing those things that you are trying to document. So documentation, while you already have those people doing those things, is so going to be helpful when this person is going to leave or something is going to happen, or you're going to hire someone else to maybe take over some of the processes, and just understand it in general how your company works is going to be very helpful if you have those people create some of the processes for you, instead of you themselves. And then you can just check to make sure that, okay, yes, this is accurate. This is everything we talked about. And the way that you understand or do this process is exactly how I'd like it to be. So you just going to be spot check.
Exactly. That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Natalie. One other thing that comes up a lot, that's actually is a question that someone Voxered me this morning who wanted to come today, but he was like, it's not in my time zone. I'm not going to be able to attend live, but I have this question, so I'm going to answer it here too." He said, "How detailed should I be in my processes?" Like, I'm someone that tends to be really detailed and kind of nitpicky about written instructions like this, but I want to like be careful that I'm not making the process cumbersome. So, how detailed should I be when I'm creating processes? And I just always say, like, I personally lean towards more detail rather than less, because I really like someone to be able to pick up that process who is like techie and knows, like for me, it's WordPress. That's a lot of what we're dealing with. Like who knows WordPress and kind of like they're not brand new at it, but aren't familiar with how we do things. I want them to be able to do the process without me having to like sit down and train them for an hour, you know? So I lean towards more detail rather than less. But then again, that's what that testing stage is really great for is, your team can give you feedback on if it's too detailed, if it's like, all right, I know to click new doc in the corner. You don't have to like create a screenshot for that, So that's my input
I
there.
also loved one of the tips you said that you do not update the video. The video is there as an icing on the cake, but the instructions are the main thing, and the instructions are obviously easier to change, and the steps are easier to change and update when it is, updated the entire video. So that is a nice little tip there.
Yeah, for sure. I actually know people that don't use video at all. They only have checklists because they find that, like where the source of truth is gets a little bit blurry for their people. But my team loves having the video. Like it's just super useful for them when they're learning. So I'm never gonna nix that. But yeah, definitely having like everyone knows the checklist is the master.
Awesome. Good. Jenny, thank you so much. And everyone, I'm going to share a link with you at the end of the day. An email is going to go out with all the resources. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'll see everyone in the next session.
Bye.
Bye.